Welcome back to the Lap by Lap podcast. I'm your host, Ethan White, Research and Sustainability Engineer for Ecolyte. So we are continuing on our series with the constructors review, and next up is Ferrari, Scuderia Ferrari, if you want their full name. So looking at the deliveries from last year to this year, it definitely hasn't changed much, other than like there has been a bit change in the shade of red, which I somewhat disagree with. Like I prefer the shade of red that they used in 2023. They've added, it seems like they're expressing more of a yellow, more of the yellow that they've been experimenting with the Monza GP liveries, which some fans agree with, some fans disagree with. However, in my opinion, I don't really like the yellow. I'm more of a classical Ferrari fan where I just like the strictly red and black. It's just like they had last year. I think last year was definitely a much better livery, just in my opinion, because of the simplicity. We then look over to the driver lineup. You have Carlos Sainz, the only race winner from last year, but that is a non Red Bull driver. Obviously, Max Verstappen dominated the whole races last year, but Carlos Sainz got the only non Red Bull driver win in Singapore. So that's like a huge achievement, I think, for Ferrari. We then move over to Charles Leclerc, obviously Ferrari's golden boy, been with the team since 2019. One of the youngest drivers that they employed, Monegasque as well. With this driver lineup, it's honestly, I think, very solid. You have two young but also very experienced drivers. Obviously, Carlos with being with teammates with Max Verstappen at one point, being in the Red Bull driver development program. So, and then Charles Leclerc being with Sauber and Ferrari. So they definitely have like quite a bit of experience. They're not rookies anymore. So they definitely are what I think Ferrari are looking for into like young talent, but also just ensuring that they are being able to have the drivers that can have a good performance. However, this is like going to be changed up massively in 2025 with the signing of Lewis Hamilton, which some might see as a big surprise, as no one, this was something that completely came out the blue. Lewis Hamilton obviously seemed like he would be staying at Mercedes till the end of his days at Formula One. Obviously, the seven-time world champion. He's been with the team since 2013, so this has been a 11-year partnership that's going to end next year. This will be the 12th year. So he will be replacing Carlos Sainz, which some disagreed, like comparing performances. But in my opinion, I think Lewis is bored at Mercedes. I mean, he's been at the team for this is his 12th year. Obviously, he had the 2021 Abu Dhabi scandal, which some say Max won the championship, some say Lewis won the championship. I honestly think that Lewis hasn't been the same driver. Maybe I don't know if it's just due to being maybe not being demotivated, or it could just be the fact that Mercedes hasn't been able to adapt to these new regulation changes. Obviously, in 2022, they had porpoising was a big issue for them, where Lewis had multiple times complaining about the car. 2023 was a bit of an upgrade, I guess. I mean, it wasn't like a huge difference. No race wins. I mean, 2022, George Russell got a race win, so it definitely shows that maybe George is the up and coming or the number one driver soon. We then move on over to team principal. We have Toto Wolff. The interesting about Toto Wolff, where it's different to other team principals, is Toto is actually a shareholder in Mercedes, so he actually has skin in the game. So it's not like we're with Christian or other or other team principals that they're an employee of the company. Where Toto is actually a shareholder. He actually has invested money in the company, so that's definitely something that we could consider. I mean, he's been with the team. He took over from Braun Dennis. I think it's 2013. You would have to correct me if I'm wrong, but he's obviously won 8 constructors world championship with the team. I mean, some in a row, which something can't be said. He's with many other teams. He's had some of the great drivers. Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton, obviously a very good pairing, both winning championships. Nico winning his in 2016, where Lewis won 2014, 2015, 2017, 2018, and 2019. With under Toto's leadership, Mercedes has honestly been one of the most dominant teams. Some could say in that turbo hybrid era, obviously producing some of the great cars that some people still look up to. You have their 2019 car. Some say the fastest car, the 2022 Mercedes, which honestly just believe was like a train on rails when it was going around some of the corners. Next team we're going to be talking about is Red Bull. Obviously, the reigning two-time constructor world champions. Obviously dominated last year, as I mentioned with Ferrari. I mean, Ferrari were the only other team winning only one race, where they where Red Bull won 99 the 99% of the other races. I mean, honestly, it was a very good year for Red Bull. I mean, getting their first 1-2 in their history of being as a team. Obviously, Max Verstappen number one in the constructors, and Perez number two. We look over to the livery, and honestly, this livery hasn't changed for, I'd probably say, about 10 years. I mean, it's basically their team identity, where it's just copy and paste. So like there are definitely some slight changes to the livery, but it's nothing like significant that changes it. I mean, in my opinion, I think it's a boring livery. You've seen it since like Sebastian Vettel's domination in 2012, and you still see it to this very day. So, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? We look over to the driver lineup. Obviously, you got Max Verstappen, three-time champion, dominated last year, breaking like almost every record in the books. I think he won like 11 races in a row last year, which is unheard of, which beated Sebastian's record of, I think it was like nine, if I'm not mistaken. So obviously he's ruling the world of Formula One at the moment. I think Red Bull can be very happy with his performance. He just gets in the car and he just goes. I mean, there was a bit of a hiccup, I guess, Singapore last year, where the car wasn't suited to the track, and I mean Max obviously got knocked out by the reserve of AlphaTauri, or now our Visa Cash at Red Bull, Liam Lawson. So that was maybe a bit of a hiccup in Max Verstappen's campaign for 2024. However, other than that, it was like a pretty smooth, solid championship for him. We then move on to Checo. I mean, Checo's always been like a lot of fire, just due to the fact that he's being teammates with one of the best drivers on the grid right now, Max Verstappen. I mean, he honestly, there's no point of him fighting for first place, because Max is probably gonna fight 10 times harder. He's just that type of guy. So Checo, I think at this point, I think it's good for Red Bull, because Red Bull honestly do favor always one driver. Always. I mean, you can see it with Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber, where Sebastian always got his own way, and you can see it today. We have Max and Sergio, where Max always gets his own way as well. So I mean, honestly, I think Sergio's the perfect candidate for them, where Sergio just sits back and he's just happy to get second place in the championship. He's happy to get the second places in those podiums, and he knows that if Max isn't out in the race, like let's say if he has a gearbox issue, he knows that he can then pick up that win, like, because this car is honestly on its own level. So honestly, the driver lineup's pretty good. I mean, you have a very experienced driver with Checo being around since the early 2012s, I think. And then you got Max, he's been with the team since 2016, replacing Daniel Kvyat. I mean, that was a very big thing. Some might have disagreed with that decision, but obviously, look who's laughing now with Red Bull. So then we move on to their team principal, Christian Horner. Christian's been a day one at Red Bull. He's been with the team since the inauguration, when they bought the team from Jaguar. So there's a bit of controversy with him at the moment, which I won't get into. I mean, hopefully the things that are being said about Christian are true, because I don't think Red Bull would be Red Bull without him. Because he's on, as I said, he's a day one. He probably knows everyone in that team like it's the back of his hand. And I definitely think that he is a great leader for the team. He definitely has a vision. He has definitely hired the right people. He's got like Adrian Newey, one of the arguably the best car designers in ever. Obviously working with the Williams, with Nigel Mansell, and obviously creating some of these amazing Red Bull cars that we've seen in the past three years, and 4 years actually. Thank you for listening. Hope you guys have a great day, and that's it from me. Peace.